You check your phone, and there it is again. Someone else's face, someone else's laughter, someone else's perfectly lit evening. And somewhere quiet inside you, a question you never say out loud. Why don't you post yours? You tell yourself you just don't feel like it. You tell yourself you're private, that you value your peace, that you're simply not the type. But late at night, when the apartment is dark and the only light is your screen, you scroll through photos you never shared, moments that felt real when they happened, and you wonder if hiding them means you're protecting something or losing something. That question follows you longer than you'd admit. The people who don't post their photos are not always the confident ones, and they are not always the broken ones either. Something more complicated is happening beneath the surface. Something about safety, something about control, something about who gets to define your worth. By the end of this, you're going to understand exactly what's driving that instinct in you, and whether it's protecting your peace or quietly starving it. You take a picture. It's good. Maybe it's really good. And for a second, there's a flicker of pride. Then, almost instantly, a colder voice steps in. What will people think? Will it look like you're trying too hard? Will someone screenshot it and mock it in a group chat you'll never see? Will your ex notice? Will your coworkers judge you? Will strangers decide in half a second exactly who you are based on one frozen frame of your life? So you close the gallery. You tell yourself, maybe later. Later rarely comes. This isn't about vanity. It never was. It's about exposure. The terrifying vulnerability of being seen, really seen, without the safety of distance. Posting a photo is not just sharing an image, it's handing people a small piece of evidence, proof that you exist, that you tried, that you cared enough to be visible. And somewhere along the way, many of you learned that visibility is dangerous. Here's a controversial thought, and you can agree or completely disagree in the comments. Not posting your photos isn't always self-respect. Sometimes it's fear wearing the costume of confidence. Sometimes it's not that you don't care what people think, it's that you care so much you'd rather disappear than risk their verdict. Say that in the comments if it hit different, or tell me I'm wrong, because some of you genuinely don't care, and that's a completely different psychology. The roots of this go further back than social media itself. For many people, the instinct to hide traces back to childhood moments that felt small at the time but never really left. A comment about your appearance that stung more than anyone intended. A sibling who was praised while you were overlooked. A parent who mocked your excitement instead of celebrating it. A friend group where standing out felt like an invitation to be laughed at. These moments don't disappear. They get filed away quietly, and years later, they resurface every single time you hover over the share button. Your finger hesitates, and you don't even know why, but your body remembers what your mind has almost forgotten. There's another layer too, one that's less about wounds and more about identity. Some people don't post because they've built a strong internal sense of self that doesn't need external validation to feel complete. They live fully, they experience joy fully, but they don't feel the need to convert that joy into content. For them, privacy isn't a wall built from fear. It's a boundary built from wholeness. They already know who they are, so they don't need strangers to confirm it. This is the quiet confidence that looks like avoidance from the outside, but feels like peace on the inside. And then there's the group caught in between, the ones who want to be seen, who ache a little every time they watch someone else get comments, likes, attention, warmth, but who freeze the second it's their turn. They open the app to post, then close it. They write a caption, then delete it. They convince themselves the photo isn't good enough, the moment wasn't special enough, they weren't good enough. This isn't apathy. This is longing, wrapped in self-protection, dressed up as indifference. You're not broken for feeling this, and you're definitely not alone. Almost everyone silently negotiates with the fear of being perceived. They just express it differently. Some flood their pages with constant updates to drown out the fear with noise. Others go completely silent, hoping invisibility will keep them safe. Neither approach heals the root. Only understanding it does. If this is starting to feel a little too familiar, that's exactly the point where most people usually keep scrolling instead of actually working through it. If you'd rather sit with this, understand yourself more clearly, and slowly build a calmer relationship with how you show up in the world, both online and off, this is where subscribing quietly makes sense. Not for the channel, for you. So the next time this question comes up in your own life, you already have somewhere to come back to. The goal was never to force yourself to post more. The goal is to understand why the decision feels so loaded in the first place. Because here is the deeper truth hiding underneath all of this. It was never really about the photo. The photo is just the surface. What you're actually protecting is your image of yourself, the private, unfiltered version that hasn't been shaped, judged, or altered by anyone else's opinion yet. Every time you choose not to post, you're making a decision about who gets access to that version of you. And that is not weakness. That is instinctive self-preservation. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. If the fear of judgment is controlling your choices so completely that you feel anxious even considering sharing a simple moment of your life, that isn't protection anymore. That's a cage built from other people's imagined opinions. People who are far too busy worrying about their own image to spend real time dissecting yours. Most people scroll past in seconds. The judgment you're afraid of exists mostly in your own mind, replaying old wounds on a modern stage. So, how do you find the balance, the space between oversharing everything and hiding everything? It starts with a small, honest question you ask yourself before deciding to post or not to post. Am I hiding this because it protects my peace or because it protects my fear? If it's peace, that's a boundary, and boundaries deserve respect, including your own. If it's fear, that's worth gently challenging, not forcing, just questioning. You don't need to suddenly flood your page with photos to prove anything to anyone. You don't need external permission to feel proud of your life. But every once in a while, when something genuinely matters to you, let yourself be seen without editing the moment down to nothing, without shrinking who you are, just to stay safe. Growth doesn't always look like posting a picture. Sometimes it looks like realizing you never needed to hide it in the first place. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to be witnessed without becoming someone else's entertainment. Whether you post that photo or not, let it be a choice made from peace, not panic. That, quietly, is where real confidence begins. If any part of this described you a little too accurately, tell me which part hit hardest in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.